As I opened it up, a burst of cool, unpleasant air permeated the room. There, in the large closet, lay a couple of boxes, along with some slew of discarded junk food bags and old bottles. Jesus, Aaron said. Hell happened here? I shrugged. Don't really remember. Barely used it. Probably used it as a trash can when I first moved in, knowing me. I had been living in that apartment close to 2 years. It was never really meant to be a long-term agreement. Once I got out of college, I picked up a relatively steady job, and I'd been living there alone ever since. I was never super happy with the place, and I had been wanting to move for quite some time. Thankfully, that particular day had finally come, and I was getting an old friend to help me move my stuff out. Aaron dug through one of the boxes of the closet. Oh shit! He exclaimed as he dug out my old 3DS. Dude, come on, I told you not to open any of these, I said. He ignored me and turned on the system. As I feared, he started laughing to himself. Animal Crossing? Seriously, man? My parents got that for me as a joke, and like a gag gift. How much was this? These are like $40, right? Who buys a $40 game as a gag gift? I flicked him off as I picked up another box. He rolled his eyes, turned off the system, and dropped it carelessly back where he found it. That was about a year ago by this point. I moved into a new house. It isn't very big, and it's not in a very interesting area, but I've learned to like it a great deal better than my last apartment. No annoying neighbors, slamming doors, and stomping about. No more having to listen to people fucking in the next room over while I'm trying to get some sleep. Just peace and quiet. Of course, that silence became slightly annoying as time went on. It made downtime twice as boring and nights twice as long. Something I would certainly have to get used to. That night, the computer only kept me occupied for so long. None of my friends were available, and there wasn't nothing on Netflix I could watch that I hadn't already watched twice. The hell did I even do before this? I suddenly remembered the answer. As ashamed as I was to admit it, all I used to do was play Animal Crossing. It made me feel less lonely and kept me busy, and that's exactly what I needed to remedy the trouble at hand. To those of you who don't know, Animal Crossing is this game where you move into a town of anthropomorphic animals. You get your own house, which you get to expand and furnish, make money by fishing and bug catching, meet neighbors, and in this particular version, you get to be the mayor. I know it sounds pretty bizarre to the uninitiated, but it's basically just an average life simulator. Kind of meant for kids, obviously, but it's kind of nostalgic for me. I always used to play it on the GameCube when I was younger, and I guess I liked the laid-back aspect of it. I digress. In any event, I went to the attic. I had moved a lot of stuff around I didn't know what to do with up there. I shuffled the stack of boxes around until I found the one labeled Assorted Shit. Snickering to myself at my comical label, I opened it up to find my old 3DS, laying just the way Aaron had lovingly dropped it in there a year prior. I opened it up and hit the on button. A familiar glow came from the console. Smiled as I watched Isabella run around the logo from the menu screen. I didn't have the charger anymore, but there was a good amount of battery left. I started up the game, and I got ready for some serious flake from my in-game neighbors. What happened next confused me, to say the least. The town from the title screen alone looked more used. I would say it was a neat thing if it wasn't so damn befuddling. A lot of perfect fruit on trees, tidal pattern paths, stretching through just about everywhere. I used to play it a lot, but not this much. From what I remember, the console was used when I got it, but the game was brand new. No way it was like this when I started. A town this good doesn't make itself. I chalked it up to my shitty memory and clicked start. Isabella greeted me, as usual, and presented me with two character choices. Two. Something definitely was up. Never did I make another character. I remember that much, at least. I scrolled past Milo, my own name, and moved to the new one. It was dubbed Joe, lowercase. And I would have laughed at the blunt simplicity of the name if I weren't so damn concerned at the moment. I almost reluctantly selected the character. Joe himself didn't look like much. He wore a number 1 shirt and blue jeans. Didn't appear to be wearing socks, or shoes for that matter. After removing his money mask, a standard gloomy boy character with blue hair was revealed. His house was gigantic. Well, calling it a house would kind of be an understatement. It was like a mansion at this point. I went in as it was the first thing I thought to inspect. The entire house was well decorated. Everything looked like it had been very deliberate and well thought out in its placement. It must have taken a long time to complete. As strange as it was, there wasn't much to report on that matter. It was all pretty standard for a regular player. Sadly, it only raised more questions than it did answers. I was rather disappointed with what little I found all over the town. He appeared to be in good standing with any resident that hadn't yet moved. A lot of them were asking where he had been. The entire town looked weirdly fantastic, but that's about the extent of it. No hidden clues, no gravestones, hints of suicide, creepy dead trees, you name it. It wasn't there. Entirely pristine, save for a few stray weeds. The only weird thing was my old house, the one my character was on, Milo's house. I guess it had all the rooms built in, but not all of them were expanded in size. Stranger still, only a few of them were actually filled in. The main room was just a standard living room with some kitchen stuff in the corner. The room to the left was just a bathroom. The one to the right was a little bedroom. The last one in the back of the room was blocked off by some tall dresser. Since I was on Jill's character, I wasn't allowed to move it as the house wasn't his. Top and bottom floors were fully expanded and totally empty. Something seemed so familiar about the layout that I couldn't put my finger on it. I know I didn't put any of it there myself. The furniture I know used to be there was nowhere to be seen. And I knew that much. Why did it jog my memory? It just wasn't ominous enough to be some sort of ghost and not clever enough to be some kind of trick set up by one of my friends. All this was just weird enough that I couldn't think of an explanation at all. Reasonable or otherwise. None of my friends knew I even had the system as far as I knew. I never talked about it. As a matter of fact, the majority of time I lived in that apartment, it was just tucked away in the... No. Could someone have... At this point, the battery light was blinking red, and anyone who's ever had a DS of any sort knows what that means. My charger had long since been lost. I had one more shot to look for answers before I'd have to fork over some cash to my local GameStop to do it. I exited to the main menu and picked my own character, Milo. I beat the A button senseless, trying to skip through Isabella's concerned questioning as to where Mr. Mayor had been. I knew he had been on my profile. That's the only way my house could have had that big of a rearrangement like that. This was almost definitely left by someone for me to find. My character exited the house, yawned, and drew his net. Looked exactly as I left him, save for a few naturally occurring bedhead. I went into the house immediately and made straight for the blocked off room. The room was small. All over the floor was trash, used sometimes collect by fishing, a tire and 2 empty cans, to be exact. In addition to that, a few cardboard boxes dotted the side of the room. I finally got the picture. It clicked. I knew why I recognized the remodeling job he had done on this house. This was a crude replica of my old apartment. That would have been freaky on its own, but there was something else in that little room. I now knew it to be my old closet. There in the corner was a mannequin. One that happened to be dressed just like Joe's character. Blue jeans, no shoes, mummy mask, and all. The red blinking light flashed relentlessly. I was almost in a trance, and I guess old habit took over. I very slowly moved my character from the closet to the front door. I stepped outside and checked my mail one more time for the road. Among the letters from my in-game mother and promotional items from Nintendo was one from Joe. I stared at the screen. I almost didn't want to do it, but before I knew it, I had drawn the stylus to the screen to put the mystery to bed once and for all. I opened the letter. Thank you. Signed, Joe.